So welcome back to the most amazing, incredible Kondras of Mayan share that you're ever going to come to in your life, besides for yesterday's share and tomorrow's share. And today we're going to be discussing, in the beginning of Maamar Hay, Perek Aleph, we're going to spend today discussing two different psukim. We're going to try to figure out why people are so assured of themselves and so overconfident with their decisions. So we're going to be looking at two psukim. Before we get started, I want to read these psukim to you guys. You ready? Quote number 1, verse A, from the book of Proverbs. You ever read Proverbs? Yeah. The book of Mishlei, it says like this, in Mishlei Perek Hay, Pasuk Daled. It says, you ready for this? Pasuk Gimel and Pasuk Daled. Ki noifes titofna sifsei zara, for the lips of a strange woman drip honey. And her palate, which means the mouth, is smoother than oil. At the end, her end is as bitter as wormwood, and as sharp as a two-edged sword. Chaim, we're just quoting some psukim before we get started. So, you got that? The strange woman has her lips drip with honey. It's kind of creepy though. Honey? No? How do you have honey coming out of your lips? Obviously, it's talking in a parable. It's explaining she has amazing words and everything sounds so good, but in the end, it ends up very bad. The other pasuk is from the book of Deuteronomy. Menachem, you ever read Deuteronomy? It's a bit like Ecclesiastes. Different book, though. So, the book of Devarim. It's from Devarim. Perek, which Perek is this? Chof Tes. Pasuk 18. You ready for this? I don't remember. Vahoya, and it shall be, V'shama is divrei ha'olah azois, when you hear the words of this curse, V'isbarek b'vavid lemer, and you bless yourself in your heart, saying, Shalom yi'eli, it'll all be peaceful for me. Ki b'shurus libi elech, because I will go in the ways of my heart. So the person saying, I'm going to do whatever I want, and everything's going to go well. L'man safois, harova es atzmeya. So we're going to have to discuss what those last words mean, but the basic meaning is, in order to add the unintentional to the intentional. To add the unintentional sins to the intentional sins. So, seemingly, it seems to be saying that someone who just does whatever they want, their unintentional sins are added to their intentional ones. We're going to have to find out. Are you ready to get started? We're going to go with, starting right off. You ready? Maamar Hay Perek Aleph. V'hinei, behold, ma yetzer hara. This is the yetzer hara. Mavtichoi convinces a person. It assures the person. Money back guarantee. You guys know the song? Money back guarantee. Ain't no bitch on the cliche. Fine. So this that the yetzer hara convinces the person. Shegamim yaseh ma'aser ra. Even if you do an evil action. Hillel, do you ever do evil actions? Well, I hope not, because your yetzer hara is trying to convince you that even if you do evil actions, mikol mokoi. Nevertheless, toiv yeloi. It's still all going to be good for him. His life's going to be great. Like it says, what was the pasuk we just spoke about? The person will bless himself, saying that I'll go in the ways of my heart, and everything will go well for me. I'll have a nice life. I'll just do whatever I want, and everything will go well. Yeah, Chaim, when you do whatever you want, does everything go well? No. Not always. So, the fact that the person, it's a double scam of the yetzer hara. Number one, he's telling you, oh, go do whatever you want. Go mess around with this furniture during shir. Because, it's all going to be good. Because whatever you do, it's all going to be good. Yeah. Fine. So let's say someone decides to start messing around with the furniture in the middle of shir. So the yetzer hara gives him a double scam. Number one, it tells him that don't worry, everything's going to be good for you. If you go in do whatever you like, and everything's going to go well. So, Gam zeh, also this fact that doing whatever you like is going to go well, yetzer, is one of the seducations of the yetzer hara. The yetzer hara convincing you. Asher noifes tutoifena sifsei zara goimer. That the yetzer hara is like a strange woman in Mishlei, because the whole story of Mishlei, which was written by Shlomo Melech, is all a mashal. It's all to tell you something. So it's telling you the yetzer hara tells you her lips drip with honey. Such nice things. Amazing. Do whatever you want. You want to run away from yeshiva today and go down to the street and do the biggest avera that Rabbi Yoel could think of. You know what was the biggest avera Rabbi Yoel could think of? A bacher stands on the street and eats chocolate. So, you want to do that? It's going to be great. The yetzer is convincing you. But you should remember what it says at the end of the pasuk, the next pasuk, V'achariseo mora kalana. Her end is as bitter as wormwood. Now, I never tasted wormwood, but apparently it's pretty bitter, but it doesn't really matter because we're talking about the idea that the yetzer tells you, hey, do this, do that, do the other. It's all going to be good, and it ends up very not good. It's like the chassid who wanted to teach his young son the best piece of life advice. So he said, okay, son, we're going swimming. So they went down to the lake in Russia. It's cold, freezing. And he told his son, okay, dive right in. And he throws his son into the lake. And his son's like, oh, yo, it's so cold, it's so cold. And he comes running out. And his father gives him a warm towel. And he's like, so geschmack, so nice. So his father tells him, remember this. When something starts off as oi and ends with it's a good thing. If it starts off with and ends with oi, it's a bad thing. You get it? When something's like difficult, it's hard work, but it ends up having a reward. It's very good. Something is right now instant pleasure, instant gratification. Now I'm going to do this, that, and the other. I'm going to go play hooky. It's fun now, but it ends up with oi. It's no good. So you got the double scam of yetzer. The yetzer is telling you to do this and telling you that also it's going to all be good out of this. But you should know it's a scam. It's a scam. You need your money back. The yetzer gave you a money back guarantee. You need to claim your money back. No customer service. What are you going to do? Once you already did it, it's done. Vine. Now, before we're going to get into this whole discussion, we're going to have to, lahaktim tchilot, first explain. You guys ready? The next paragraph, we're going to do a bit of linguistic work. Yeah? So first we're going to have to understand, Pirush HaPasuk, what it means in the Pasuk, V'sparach b'levavei lemar. This Pasuk we're talking about today, that someone will bless themselves in their heart, saying, Shalom yiyeli, it'll be good, it'll all be good for me, ki b'shruas libi eilech, because I'll go in the ways of my heart, l'man tzvais harava es etzmeya, in order to add. So we explained it before as the unintentional to intentional mitzvah. So literally it means the satiated, the full. Satiated is someone who has like a big meal and is full. Es etzmeya, satiated, yeah, beautiful. To the thirsty. So you add the full guy to the thirsty guy. What in the world does that mean? So, umishma is a pasuk. Seemingly, what the pasuk means to be telling you, because I'm going in the ways of my heart, whatever my heart wants. Soon as it says Tom, it's giving a reason. Because of koidim and what it says before, the guy will bless himself in his heart. That he's like, why is he blessing himself in his heart? Why is he deep down saying, oh yeah, my life's going to be great? Because because everything's going to go well for me. So the pasuk started off Menachem with saying that the guy's blessing himself in his heart. Why is he blessing himself in his heart? Because it's saying, well, I'm going to do whatever I want. And then what's going to result from that? Everything's going to go well for me. I'm running my own life. I'm doing whatever I want. So here's the thing. It's all going to be good for me because I'm going the way of my heart. Seemingly, here's the question. Any moving cloud, it doesn't make any sense. You know why? How can someone imagine? How can someone imagine deep down? The davka when he's doing whatever he wants, through that, everything's going to go well for him. I'd understand if someone says, I'm going to keep all the rules, I'm going to be a model citizen, I'm going to be the top bacher in yeshiva, and then everything will go well for me. That I understand. Or I understand someone saying, I'm going to do whatever I want, and I don't care about the outcome. But how can you have someone who says, I'm going to do whatever I want, and then everything's going to go well? How self-centered could someone be to honestly think that the way everything's going to go well is, I'm going to do whatever I feel like. You know, doing whatever anyone with a little bit of brains knows, doing whatever you feel like doesn't always lead to the best outcome. It doesn't always lead to the best outcome. Most people do whatever they want because they're doing whatever they want. They give in to their lower side. They give in to their lower instincts. For example, Chaim, give me an example. What would a bacher be doing whatever he wants?
Waking up not on time.
Okay, very good. Bacher wants to sleep in. Beautiful. Most bacherim don't sleep in thinking that this is going to be great, I'm going to be marked on time. No, they sleep in and they're like, oi, I slept in, I'm going to come late. So why is the pasuk telling us about a person, and we're going to see later in Maamar that a lot of people feel like this in a lot of situations, that someone's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do whatever I want, and that's going to be the best. That's how I'm going to win. That's how I'm going to be the top of the top. It seems very strange. V'gam, also, ma'u pirush l'man safes harava chulu. What does it mean to add the full one to the thirsty one. So before we get into any explanation, I'd just like to talk about for a moment about this person who says, Shalom li yeli, it's all going to be good for me, because I'm going in whatever my heart wants. That I'm going to say a few nekudas. Firstly, there was a chassid. His name was Shmuel Michal Ternin. He was a very chassidish yid. He was a chassid of the Rebbe Rashab. So he was once by the Rebbe Rashab, and the Rebbe asked him. He was a big businessman. He had a lot of money. Shmuel Michal Ternin, and he lived in Russia. The thing was, he went into the Rebbe Rashab, and the Rebbe Rashab asked him something very difficult. He said, "I'd like you to give 10,000 ruble to tzedakah." So Shmuel Michal is like, he has a lot of money and he gives a lot of tzedakah, but 10,000 ruble is insane. 10,000 ruble? That's like more than a chaimish. I'm sure it was more than a chaimish. Some people worry about a chaimish more than others, yeah? It says in halacha that you have to give 10% of your income to tzedakah, you have your profit to tzedakah, and you can give up to 20%. Some people are more careful about not giving more than 20%, and some people are less careful about it. You know what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya? That if you're just donating to be nice, you can't give more than 20%. But if you need to pay off something, you give all your money. If you need to pay medical bills, you give all your money. So if you need to fix up your neshama, if you need to do tshuva, if you need Hashem's chesed, then you should give. It's a human necessity to give more than that. By the way, I was speaking to a friend of mine who lives in Toronto. He's an accountant. And he told me something incredible. He said he does accounts for a lot of from people. It's religious people, not religious people he does accounts for. He says he sees a lot of religious people that are giving 50-60% of their income straight to tzedakah. So this guy came to him. He's not very rich. He made maybe $100,000 or $200,000 last year. So he's not doing badly, but there's nothing special. He said he gave 60% to tzedakah. Incredible. He said another client who was a nityid who made several $1 million in a corporate job. And this guy is a Christian. He donated to his church $200 that year. Fine. Anyways, so the vart is like this. Shmuel Michal Ternin, the Rebbe Rashab wanted to give the enormous sum of 10,000 ruble. That was more money than most people in Russia made in their lifetime. Now, he was a big businessman, but still, it's a massive amount of money. So he walked out of the Rebbe, 10,000 ruble, and he decided he's not doing it. That's a good question. I have no idea. I would have to imagine. Let's try to find it out. 10,000 ruble, 1,900 worth today. There's no way to find this out, is there? There's absolutely. Oh, here we go. 10 ruble in 1900 was about $5 US equivalent. So that means it was like 5,000 US dollars in 1900, which is worth today. It's worth today $187,860.12. There we go. Beautiful. That is a lot of money. That's a lot more money than I have. It's nearly $200,000. So the Rebbe Rashab wanted to give the equivalent of $187,860.12 to tzedakah. That's a very large amount of money. That's more money than I'm ever going to make in this yeshiva, even if I work in my whole life. So it's a very, very large amount. Not exactly. But how is it possible? What? So he's like, wow, nearly $200,000 worth today. That's a lot of money. You could buy a house with that kind of money. So Rebbe, I can't give that. Anyways, he walks out of the Rebbe Shab's office and he goes back home. Now, he was a big businessman. He lived in the capital city of, at the time, it was Petersburg, known as St. Petersburg today. Later, it moved to Moscow. So he was driving his carriage down the street, because he's an official guy, and his driver made a very silly mistake. You guys ever drove in New York? Everyone's cutting, everyone's weaving. Whether you like it or not, people are going to cut you. There's a lot of people go spend good money to go to defensive driving courses. You know how to drive defensively to make sure you don't get into a crash. In New York City, everyone does offensive driving. Anyways, so his driver... You nail down your horn so it just blares non-stop. So his driver went and cut off a fancy carriage. Then, before you know it, the guards running at them, the soldiers surrounding, pull over. You just cut off the Tsar's carriage. The Tsar himself. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what my driver was thinking. It's like, you will be sorry after you get a fine. They write him up a ticket. This will show you never to disrespect the czar like this. You understand, it's not just a traffic violation. This is disrespecting the czar. They wrote him up a massive ticket, 10,000 ruble. 10,000, the same 10,000 ruble the Rebbe told him to give to Tzedakah. So what happened here? Perhaps the Rebbe saw that there was something in Shemayim that he was going to be punished by 10,000 ruble going away. And the Rebbe decided, I'll help him out. I'll let him do it in a good, positive, kind, giving way. And that way he'll have a mitzvah instead of it being taken away in some other way.
How was it taken some other way?
It was taken away as a traffic ticket for cutting off the czar. So, that's an example of someone who decided the Rebbe has his idea. I should give 10,000 rubles to Tzedakah. I have my own idea. I won't give it. And he blessed himself in his heart saying, it's all going to go well for me. And it didn't go so well for him. Which leads us to our question of Maamar. Why do people bless themselves in their heart saying, I make my own decisions. I'm going to do whatever I want. And it's going to go so well. I want to bring another example of this. There was a chassid whose name was Rabbi Zuber. And he was a very, very Chassidish Yid. And he lived in Stockholm. He was the rabbi, the religious rabbi of Stockholm, Sweden. Now, during the Holocaust, he worked very hard to save the Chassidim who were trapped in Nazi-occupied Poland. He actually arranged visas for 10 of the greatest Chassidim who were stuck in Warsaw, or Otwock, more accurately, a suburb of Warsaw. And they were in Nazi-occupied territory, but there was still a lot of neutral countries in Europe that you could leave to. If you were a citizen of this country or that country, at that point in the war, you could leave. So he got visas for 10 Chassidim, including Reb Chatzah Fagin and Reb Itcher the Masmid, some of the greatest Chassidim. And they went to the airport, but in the meantime, the local conservative rabbi of Sweden found out that these Chassidim were coming to town, and he was worried that, quote, Stockholm shouldn't become a Chassidic town. So he pulled his connections and he managed to get the visas cancelled. And the Chassidim were later all killed by the Nazis. So, strangely enough, this Reform rabbi also ran an aid organization for sending aid to Jews trapped in Nazi territory. Very strange situation. Anyways, it's a very, very sad story. And the thing is about Rabbi Zuber that he was a very good person. And later in life, after the war, it was coming up, it was the early 1950s, and he wanted to move to America. So he was a chassid, he wrote to the Rebbe, they should come to America. He's like, Rebbe, I want to move to America. He was expecting a big thank you from the Rebbe, a warm welcome. The Rebbe's so excited to see him, doesn't get a response. He writes to the Rebbe again, Rebbe, I want to come to America. Waiting for the mail, checking the mailbox every day. You guys ever waiting for a package? You know, you order something on Amazon. And yeah, a new phone case, it costs you $6.99. So you're like waiting, checking the mail every second. Maybe someone's going to steal it. Nothing came. He wrote to the Rebbe again. Still no answer. He's on Spilkus. He decides, that's it. I want to move to America. I'm moving to America. He comes to America. He moves to Boston. And when he came, it was in 1952. And one of the Maskirim, one of the Rebbe's secretaries, came and told the Rebbe that Zuber had gekommen. Zuber came to America. So the Rebbe said, who told him to come? Very strange answer. You would think the Rebbe would be so happy that his chassid came. Wow, amazing. I want to meet you. Such an amazing person. The Rebbe's like, who told him to come? So it was very clear the Rebbe didn't want him in America for whatever reason. Because the Rebbe didn't like him? No. Sadly, people would soon find out that there was a great tragedy that happened on New Year's Eve of 1953. He was walking down the street in Boston, and there was some drunk dude who went and shot him and killed him. And it was a terrible tragedy, and he had young children. He had to grow up without a father. And why did such a thing happen? No one can know. Only Hashem knows. But it seems that maybe the Rebbe saw that something was not destined. Maybe there was some bad destiny for him in America, and the Rebbe wanted to keep him out of America, perhaps. Perhaps that was what was going on. Maybe the Rebbe saw there was something that wasn't good for him in America. But he decided to come for his own reasons. I'm sure he had many good reasons to go. I just want to say one story. It's a very sad story. One more story. The story is not so sad. That there was a Yid whose name is Rabbi Deitch, who lived in Crown Heights. You guys know the big Deitch family?
No.
Yeah. Very good. So, this family, they have, Baruch Hashem, quite a bit of money. So there's a story with the Rebbe, how he listened to the Rebbe, exactly what the Rebbe said, and that's how he made all his money. So today I'd like to say a story the opposite. That Rabbi Deitch was once speaking to a distant relative. I heard this story secondhand. I heard it from this relative's relative. But I heard it from a very good source. That it was in the 1950s, and Rabbi Deitch was making a bit of money in business. He wasn't making big money, but he was making a bit of money. He wanted to invest in real estate, like every good Jew. And he was looking to buy a house to invest in Crown Heights. And he couldn't decide whether to buy a certain house on President Street or a certain house on Montgomery. Now, President Street and Montgomery are both nice streets. 1950s, I think there were a lot more nice streets around here. And he was looking into both of them, and he wrote to the Rebbe. He wrote, Rebbe, the one on President is going to cost him $100,000. The one in Montgomery is going to cost him $120,000. But one of them was a bit bigger. One of them was a bit of a better location. One of them had more rooms. One of them had less rooms. And he wrote to the Rebbe all the pros and cons of buying each house. By the way, what would you guys do? Neither. What?
Buy the bigger house.
Chaim would buy the bigger one. Menachem would buy neither. I don't know. Hillel, what would you do?
I don't know.
Menachem, what would you do? House in Montgomery or House on President? On President, yeah. Menachem knows what's up.
Which one is bigger?
I think the one on President was smaller, but it's on a nicer street. It was a bit less. He did buy the President one? What do you think?
Very hard.
You're not sure?
If you could tell in the future, maybe. Which
I'm not sure which part it was. That's a good question. Either way, he wrote to the Rebbe. You know what the Rebbe said? Whether you should buy the Montgomery one, the President one, the bigger one, or the smaller one. The Rebbe wrote, Koif beide und noch 10. Buy both of them and another 10. Buy both houses and another 10 houses. So then he finishes off the stories. Rabbi Deitch is telling this years later when he's already a millionaire. He says, I was a smart young man. You know, every young man thinks they're very smart. Yeah? I can. So, myself included. So I was a smart young man, and I thought that, you know what? I'm just going to buy one of them. I don't have the money now to buy both of them. I'm for sure not to buy another 10. So I just bought one of them. And what happened in the end? Looking back, a few years later, the price of housing in Crown Heights went up and down and up and down. And then at the end of the game, those houses are worth like 10 times as much. If it was worth 100,000, let's find out. If it was worth 100,000 in 1950.
You also have to count for the money that is increased and also the house.
Yeah. So 100,000 in 1950 is 1.3 million.
In dollars.
Yeah, in current day dollars. But nowadays, each of those houses are probably worth $4 million each. So he could have, over there, more than tripled his money. But if he would have just rented it out for that time, he would have already tripled his money. You know what I'm saying? You rent it out for that time, and then you sell it. Anyways.
Yeah, but 1950 to 19 right now is 70 years. You're not waiting 70 years.
Okay, so if he would have sold it 20 years ago or 30 years ago, he would have doubled his money. You know what I'm saying? He would have made a ton of cash. So this Yid he was telling the story to says back to him, if you would have listened to the Rebbe, now you would be a rich man.
You did listen to them.
So he only listened to one of them.
Oh, you
He's telling him, it's a very funny thing to tell a millionaire. Someone's a multimillionaire, and you're telling him, if you had listened, now you would be a rich man.
The Rebbe told him to buy both and another 10, but you only bought one?
Yeah.
Oh.
So if you listen to the Rebbe, now you'd be a rich man. Now,
Well, which one did he buy?
You know that-
Which one did he buy? The Montgomery one or
I'm
the-
not sure. That's a good question. I'm really not sure. Okay, let's get right back into the Maamar, guys, because we're going to finish up this piece today. You ready? Rashi. So we're going to discuss what does it mean in the pasuk that when it says someone will bless themselves, Menachem, I'll bless myself in the heart, saying I'm going to do whatever I want. Everything's going to go well for me. And in order to add the full one to the... So, what does it mean at the end of the pasuk in order to add the full one to the thirsty one? You ready for this? We're going to have Rashi. Rashi Pirish. Rashi explains... Chaim, you have a place? Rashi explains Sfois Lashon Chibur. What does adding Sfois mean? It means adding together. Kumoi Sof Shana al Shana. Like it says to add one year to another. So Sfois means what?
Slice?
Adding.
Wait,
Now,
what's
we're
the
going to have
first?
Radak. The end of the page. Radak says, Pirish, Lashon Tosefes. So as opposed to chibur, which is putting together, Tosefes is adding and increasing. So one is connecting, one is increasing. Ukamoi lispois oid, to increase more. Or olisechem safa al zivchechem. Your oil offerings are in addition to your zvachim offerings. So you have two meanings of svois. Connecting and adding. Or pirush. Rava v'tzameah. So this thing, what are we connecting or adding? The thirsty one and the satiated one. Pirush Rashi, what does that mean? Rava, who are satiated? Who are full? We're connecting the full one. We're connecting or adding the thirsty one to the full one. So who's full? Rava akum. Rava are the non-Jewish nations. Shetzveim. They're full. They're happy. They're satiated. They're not thirsty for their creator. They're living life. Everything's fine. Tzmeya, who's thirsty? This is the Jewish people. Shetzmeya, that they're thirsting. Or se'eva. And they're wanting and they're desiring liras yetzer l'kayim mitzvos, to fear their creator and to keep his mitzvahs. So you have irregular nations. They're quite happy. Life's going well. As long as everything's going good. As long as it's peaceful time and there's enough food and you can go watch a movie and everything's good. But the Yidden, they're thirsting for the creator. By the way, it's very interesting to see that Jewish people are usually at the forefront of every crazy movement and ideology. Like they say in the 1930s, if you meet a communist, you'd say he's a Jew. And in the 1920s, if you meet, I don't know what's the other one, socialist, you'd say he's a Jew. So you'd see nowadays, if you meet a lot of people in all these crazy ideologies nowadays, a lot of them are Jewish. And the reason clearly, Jewish people are thirsting for the Creator. They have a soul, a neshama, that needs Hashem. Not everyone realizes that they need Hashem. So you end up having Yidden getting involved in all sorts of silly things because they have this feeling deep down that they need to do something more. Vine, you do it. No, the Knesset Yisrael L'mayla, what's the congregation of Israel above? You guys ever gone to a shul called Congregation Knesset Yisrael, Congregation of Israel? So it's actually a spiritual term for what? The source of Jewish souls. Shul b'chinas Malchus. That's the level of Malchus. You ready to get into some Askola? He neshamas Yisrael shalamata. So that is the neshamas of Yisrael down here. V'nikras gamkein hatzmeya. Shetzmeya liyetzer. It's also called thirsty. So both the source of Jewish souls, Malchus of Atzilus, and also the Jewish souls down here are both thirsting for the Creator. You ready for the last few lines of today? Yeah. The idea is, Malchus Malchus is the source of creation of the world. Like it says, your Malchus is the Malchus of all worlds. That all worlds are created through Malchus. Yeah, what's your question?
Malchus means kingship, like kingship, like your empire,
You're being king.
No, it's not. The darga of Malchus is one thing, and then there's Malchuscha, your kingdom, basically.
No.
means kingdom.
Malchuscha is
Or
your
your
Malchus.
leadership.
You're being Melech. Your majesty. So, Uksiv, and it says, V'ata mechayes kolom, and you give life to all of them. So, what does this mean? That everything in the world is created, is mechayeh, given life from Hashem. V'ata, and you. Now we're going to look closely at the word v'ata. What does it mean in you, Hashem? And we're going to see in which way Hashem gives life to all the animals. V'ata, hein, ha'oisies, me'alef ad tov. So the word me'ata are the letters of Aleph. Me'ata. Ata is Aleph. Tov. So all the letters from Aleph to Tov. And then you have a hey at the end. He's not going to explain here, but explain in other places. Says the hey at the end represents the 5 parts of the mouth. Very good. You know what the 5 parts of the mouth that you speak with? Teeth, tongue, lips. Throat or galut. Breath kind of comes through all of those. The last one we're looking for is palate, which is like the top of the mouth. You know that your tongue, like when you're saying a T sound, yeah, you say a lamed or a tuf. So the letters of speech from aleph to tuf that you form with the 5 parts of the mouth, that's how Hashem creates the world, through speech. These are the letters of speech. From there comes the life of the world. So, one last thing before I explain this. Don't say give life, rather create. That Hashem doesn't only give life to the world, Hashem creates the world through the letters of Aleph through Tov. Since when does Hashem create through the letters? It actually says right at the beginning of Parshas Bereshis, it says, Hashem says, Vayomer Hashem Yehi Or. Hashem said there should be light. Hashem said there should be trees. Hashem said there should be a sun and the moon. Hashem's speech is what creates the worlds. Like it says, the word of Hashem will stand forever. And it also says that the word of Hashem, the heavens were created. So it's an idea in Chassidus that the Rebbe Rashab is saying it here, very shorthand, that everything is created through Hashem's speech. And we're in a bit of a rush, so we're going to continue. That this level, that's the source of creation and giving life to the world. It's only one little ray. It's nothing regarding Hashem himself. The Rebbe Rashab is going to do here, he's going to summarize like 1,000 Maimarim right here into the very point form. That how Hashem's little ray that comes out of him, the speech, the outside, the being king is not yourself. It's when you want to be king over someone else. So the expression to the outside is nothing compared to Hashem himself. So if the essence of Hashem's infinite light, it would be impossible to create limited creations. You know why? Something limited and something unlimited, they're completely incomparable, unconnectable. To have Hashem, who's infinite, would never be able to come into a world of finite beings. Chaim, imagine if just Hashem in all his glory just came and revealed himself to you. You would go out of your mind. You would cease to exist. So, right near the bottom of this paragraph. So, in order, the line starts with the word ability. So in order for Hashem to come into the world, he has to hide some of his light and only let out to the outside a bit of we could call it ray, we could call it a speech, we can call it kingship as opposed to you yourself. Like I said, in many places in Chassidus at length, and there's like a million different levels within this, and you're going to have to learn the rest of Chassidus to understand. From a little ray, as opposed to the sun itself, which would represent in our mashal Hashem's infinite light, the source of light, there's only this tiniest ray comes into this world to create it. Give me 1 minute, yeah? This is why Malchus is called a name. Melech Shmoi Nikar, like it says, the king calls his name upon them. Your name is only an outside thing, an offshoot, an expression. Like the name of a person. That's not who you are. 1 second. Chaim, if you lived on a deserted island in the middle of the ocean with only a coconut tree, would you need to have a name?
My name?
You wouldn't need a name because you just know me. There's me. When you meet someone else, you have to say, hi, I'm Chaim. Because that's how someone else can relate to you. That's why we're calling Malchus Hashem's name. Because just like the little ray that comes out of the sun, just like the speech that comes out of the person, just like the kingship, it's not the king himself, it's the fact that he wants to be king over others, a name is an expression of you, how others can relate to you. So we're talking about here, Hashem's Malchus is the way he relates to the outside. So too, the whole life of all the worlds is what? It's only a small ray and offshoot and outside thing from Hashem. Let's say Kitzer. You ready for this? Very quick because it's time to end. Kitzer. From the fact that the apostle continues, that I'll go in the ways of my heart. Mashman implies, Shuna says, Tam, it's a reason of his Baruch Shalom Yilui. For the person blessing himself, that everything's going to go well for me. The person say, yeah, everything's going to go well for me. Why? Because I'm going by doing whatever I want. What does it mean to add those who are full to those who are thirsty? Which we explained that adding the Jewish people who are thirsty for Hashem to the non-Jewish ones who are quite happy with life. Rava Akum, the ones who are full, satiated, are the non-Jewish nations. Smei and Neshamas Yisrael, the thirsty ones, are the Jewish Neshamas. The Sharsha Mitzvah Malchus, that their source comes from Sfira Malchus, Mokar Elements, the source of the world, Svanivraim, and creations. Shua Ar Levada, that's just a small offshoot. That's incomparable to Hashem's essence. That's why it's called a name. So Jewish people come from Malchus, which is the source of all the worlds, but it's the smallest, tiniest offshoot of Hashem's real being. Yeah, Chaim, what was your question?